And what it means is that you have to go through all sorts of elaborate rituals and details and deal with archons and aeons and logos and all these different things in order to receive salvation. Modern day Gnostics would be examples, for example, the Mormons, the Masons, a lot of New Agers. All these people believe they're saved by acquiring some sort of arcane, hidden wisdom. Okay, then we've got pre-Islamic sorcery and alchemy. I don't really have time to talk about that, but that in turn birthed what is called the assassin cult. Now, some of you may have heard of this. There was a group that came out of Orthodox Islam that was called the Ishmaelians. It was like a splinter group. And these Ishmaelians were a small but powerful heresy. And one of their chief leaders was a sheikh by the name of Hassan-i-Sabah. And this guy led a group that was called the Hashishim. Excuse me, that's where we get our word assassin, is from the Arabic word Hashishim. Now, why were they called Hashishim? Because the word means eaters of hashish. Now, most of you probably have heard of hashish. I hope none of you have tried it, but maybe some of you have. I certainly had my share in my day. Hashish is a powerful form of marijuana, a distillation of its chemically active ingredient delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, which is called THC for short, and it's what gives marijuana its hallucinogenic properties. So if you take hash, or as it's called colloquially, you get quite a buzz off it. And how this guy worked, he is kind of the father of the modern day conspiracy. He was the father of modern day espionage. And he was the first programmer, the first mind control operator. And this is what he did. If someone wanted to join his group, he knew he needed elite warriors because he had all of Islam arrayed against him. And if any of you have studied Islam, you understand that it has a very interesting approach to soul winning. You come up to someone and you say, "You're going to become a Muslim?" If you say no, I'm going to cut your head off. That's how they worked. That is called jihad, holy war. That's why to this very day you will find certain Islamic factions that will think nothing of blowing themselves and dozens of other people up in what they believe is a service of their God, Allah. And so what happens is they believe if they die in jihad, in holy war, they will go straight to Islamic paradise. Now, what's Islamic paradise like? Well, in the days of this Hassan, what you had was the belief, first of all, there were no women in heaven. Sorry, no women. Because women didn't even have souls. That's why even to this very day, women are treated very badly in the Islamic faith. Beyond that, when you died, you would go to a place called paradise, where you could do all the stuff you weren't allowed to do as a Muslim. You could eat pork, you could drink wine, and there were these beautiful angels called Uris that looked just like Playboy centerfolds, and they would minister to your every whim throughout eternity. And this is the Islamic paradise. Now, when Hassan-i-Sabah died, his last word, he never was caught. He never was captured by the Orthodox Muslims. And on his deathbed, his last words were, "Nothing is true, everything is permissible." And those have become some of the bywords of the Illuminati that he had such a profound influence on. Okay, moving along. What happened next is the royal secret of Masonry passed from the Assassins to the Templars. Now, the Knights Templar were warrior knights. They were Catholics that took part in the Crusades that you've probably all heard about. They went over to the Holy Land to try and capture the Holy Land back from the Saracens. Now, the Saracens were a kind of Muslims. During this conflict, which lasted over a century, they began to interface with the Assassins. They began to share each other's secrets. And so when they lost the Crusades, the Templars went back to Europe, immensely wealthy, immensely powerful, and full of occult knowledge. Now, you got to understand something about the Templars. They got very wealthy because they basically provided protection for the pilgrims as they journeyed from Europe to visit the sacred places in the Holy Land. And they got very, very wealthy. Plus, there are legends that say that they found Solomon's treasure buried in the ruins of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and that they were fabulously wealthy. They got so powerful, and interestingly enough, they became the first international banksters. Everybody tries to blame the Jews for that one, but actually the first international banksters were in fact the Templars. And they got so powerful and so wealthy, they threatened the Vatican, which was not a wise thing to do. So the Pope got together with the King of France, and they conspired to bring down the Templars. In 1307, on October 13th, Friday, they sent out warrants and captured every Knight Templar that they could find, including the Grand Master, whose name was Jacques de Molay. Now, Jacques de Molay was a pretty sinister fellow, and some of you may have heard of the Masonic order, the de Molays. It's named after Jacques de Molay, believe it or not. And this fellow was a pedophile. He enjoyed having sex with young boys. He was also an idolater. He worshipped an idol named Baphomet, and he was a practitioner of black magic. And this is the guy that the Masons idolize as a hero for their young boys. So anyway, when de Molay, this wonderful spiritual giant, died, burned at the stake, and I don't advocate that, please. I mean, I think it was a horrible thing that they did to the Templars. He didn't die the death of a martyr. He wasn't like Stephen and said, you know, Lord, please forgive them. He cursed them. He cursed the Pope, and he cursed the king, and he said within a year they would both be dead. And within a year they both were. Now, whether that's because he was a powerful sorcerer, or whether it was because there were assassins who did the job for him, we don't know. So, nobody knows what happened to the treasury of the Templars. It vanished. And the best guesses that we have is that it went up to Scotland, where it was hidden.